Okay, so I'm going to do a tear down and repaste the APU. A little bit new to this one still. Haven't done much Xbox One. On the side, there are a few clips here, here, and here. But you want to start on this side by using a tool kind of like this one, a spudger. And you want to work your way underneath till it pops. And now that you have a little bit extra, you can gently work your finger underneath it. Until you have it off. On the side, you still have this piece going around that. And you just work your spudger or flathead, doesn't matter, into one of these holes from over here, and you kind of just slide it over. Now you want to move to the back. You're going to have another few larger clips here, here, and here. But you want to work by, you need to remove first this warranty label. You can either cut it, heat it off, peel it off, whatever, but it does need to go. So I'm going to cut it. But you do need to, oops, that's moving a little too much. So right here, you want to put your fingers underneath here and your thumb. You lift up here and you push up here with your thumb until it breaks that clip. Well, until it breaks it loose. And now it just went back. I don't know if I got it yet or not. I think it just went back in. It's kind of hard to see. There, got it again. So it needs to be like that, where it's completely separated, the tabs. While you're holding it, you want to work your way across. Trying to see where the clips are. It's kind of hard to see underneath my camera. Oh, I see, it's right there. This is really hard to do underneath my camera. Why isn't it coming off? I can see it. There, I got one. There we go. So just to show you, the 3 clips underneath are here, here, and here. On the other side, there are no... Oh no, they don't make it easy to open at all, and no, this is working. On the other side, try to gently show you. It's a part of the case, so there's nothing to take off from over there. And there are some other clips on the other side where I just showed you. So be careful not to pull them too hard. This does rock off going to the front. Just need to be very gentle here. Back up my chair. There we go. So you want to be very careful. I don't know if you can see this on camera. Let me see if it pops up. I'm watching it come back here. Guess I could just do that. Right here, there's this flex cable. It attaches, this is all your your touch controls for the front for the power and this main board. So it also has to do with your sink and everything else that's hooked up here. There's a little ribbon. You have to lift this blue ribbon that's holding over there to secure it, and remove the ribbon carefully. If that rips, you have no touch controls on the front. So you want to do that before anything else. Try to see if I can swap this around and be easier for me. right, there you go. So, sorry it's taking so long. But right here, this is the blue that I was talking about. It holds over there as like a security measure so the ribbon doesn't kind of flop in and out. And there's your ribbon. All right, so things you need to do. This is for your Wi-Fi antenna. You want to pop off that, then pop off the one on the front. Just runs all the way down there. To get off these, I believe those ones are, I want to say those are a T9. Yes, they're a T9. Just the two on the Wi-Fi chip. Now underneath this, you want to pull it directly up. Ethernet card to the computer just reminds me of the card open. Nice. So you want to pull these straight up because they are connected into the below. Looks like somebody put some ink on there. Always keep your screws together just so you don't get them confused. The two T9 screws go into your Wi-Fi chip. Then you have, I believe, let's see. I want to say, then you have more T9 right here, 3 more T9s underneath it. The rest of the board right here should be all T10. Should be like 8 of them. Hello, Mark. Basically what I'm unscrewing right now is the actual connection of where the Wi-Fi chip plugs into. There's a little unit underneath here and that plugs into the motherboard. So this is kind of its mounting area. Here's my T10. You also want to disconnect, of course, this speaker. Right there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 T10 screws. These ones are going to be longer, so you really can't mix these up with anything else. This is basically what holds the this entire internal section into the bottom section of the case. All these lengths of these T10s are the same. So it doesn't matter where you put them back next time. They're all labeled. You know, like C2, C4, C1, 7, 5, 6. They're all labeled. So while it's not easy to get into the console necessarily, it's at least labeled pretty well, which is something Microsoft has been pretty good about for the most part, keeping sure that everything is labeled. So now that we have that, this I believe should come right off this case. Now we're inside. So once again, this is where your Wi-Fi plugs in. If you look underneath, there is the connector for it. So this one is a 500 gigabyte model. So the whole point of this was to repaste the APU. So first things first, we're gonna remove the Blu-ray drive. Remove these two right here. Let me see. This should just lift up like so. Most of this stuff is fairly modular once you get in. Makes it pretty easy. Hey, Brian. Next, after we remove the Blu-ray drive, we're going to be removing its hard drive. This is a pretty clean unit, so remove its SATA cable. And its power. Hard drive comes out. Now we're down to the main board. So now we're gonna remove, let's see here. Okay. Just double checking here. We do need to remove this, this front PCB right here. And this one is looking like it's a T9. Let's double check. Yes, it's a T9. There's 3 of them on the front PCB, the one where you have like your power button, that PCB. So since we're going to be removing the motherboard and it's connected to that, you don't want to pull on it. To show you, there's this connector that plugs into here. You want to start by pulling with as much like an overall mass pressure, like just pulling it directly out, because there's nothing else touching the case itself. And looks like we are pretty good. So we want to take this out here. And I don't believe there are any more screws inside here. But these 2 little posts right here, you do want to remove those. So you just push in on the front, the 2 little pegs, and pull out. Let me see here. Oh, I completely forgot. So to get the motherboard out, it is screwed in from below. You're gonna have a few more screws. You have, let's see here, these are T10. We're gonna have 2 here on the corner, 2 here on the opposite corner by this black plastic. And then you have 4 more for the X clamp. Well, James, this one I got as a, it was like apparently a returned item. Customer didn't have it for very long, so. Let's see, and these ones are T9. So T10 on the outside, T9 on the X clamp. Since the X clamp ones are black, you will not mix those up. What's wrong with it? Nothing. It's perfect. This is just an old base model, so I want to repaste the APU. When you're flipping it over, try to hold on to the fan so when you're flipping it back around, it's not gonna flop out on you. So I like to hold on by a part of the heatsink itself. You want to make sure that these ports are not stuck in there. And you want to rock it back. Ah, my hand was getting stuck underneath there. Oh, I forgot there's one more post over here. This is a T9 post. So if you want to keep your screws together, you can always put the screw into the post for temporary. Now the board should come out. So awkward height here because of the X clamp and the big heat sink, but it's okay. So the way I usually get X clamps off is with a flathead. I don't have an X clamp tool. You can do it with flathead. You just do need to be careful. Just because you don't want to slip. You want to bump any extra resistors or capacitors off and have an issue, now your Xbox is dead. So I don't go straight on right here on the front of the X clamp where it's like directly parallel. Kind of go on the side. And you just kind of work it. There you go, one's off. Now all you need to do is the one directly across from it right here. And once you do that, the others come off. So you want to again work from the corner. Just a little bit. Go to the other side. Little bit. Go back. Sometimes they're more stubborn than the others, so just be patient. You don't want to screw up your X clamp here because that is very key. I'm going to hold this right here gently. I'm trying to be pretty careful about this. Don't want to apply too much pressure down there. There we go. And then usually you can kind of wiggle them off, generally speaking. This one is not allowing me to do so. So if you need to keep working at the X clamp, just go ahead and do it. Don't just wiggle it and wiggle it until it comes off. You might just have more issues than you were bargaining for. X clamp is off. Now that it's off, it's being held by nothing. So just lift straight up over and then disconnect the fan cable. You probably should have done that before. X clamp tool. Oh yeah, if you got one, please. So this Let's see how this paste is doing. I'm gonna gently go over the side here. This paste is not actually that bad. Probably didn't see too much use prior. Let's look at the X clamp right here. That's not so bad either. Now you don't want to go ahead and scrape away. You do want to use like a plastic spudger to get off the bulk of it, so you're not creating scratches in it. So I'm going to get my trash can. I'm going to scrape off some of this real quick. Just at least the bulk of it. It is coming off pretty easy, so it is dry. Xbox Ones are known for getting pretty hot because cheap thermal paste is used on them. So if you notice, I'm just taking a spudger, gently scraping it off. This is just to get the bulk, so you can go over with some IPA after. Almost there. Just gonna use some isopropyl alcohol after, and now I'm gonna do this one. So you want to be very careful because you don't want to accidentally slip and nick one of these other things here. Maybe those little capacitors on the side. So you want to go very gently. Get whatever extras you got. Probably should have prepared by grabbing my Arctic Silver 5, which I plan to use here before starting this stream. That's okay. I'll go grab it quickly. I know where it is. You do want to get off as much as possible, but if you have just a tiny bit line on these, it's all right. It's not the end of the world. If any flakes off, be sure to grab it. I did, however, remember to get my Q-tips and isopropyl alcohol. Is this a comment on? Yeah. Any Xbox, really. More so the original ones. The original ones got a little hotter than the S model. As for the X model, I am not very sure. Right? They do clean up with like a mirror finished. They look like they're brand new. They made it all shiny and fresh. You do want to go around, try to wipe up as much as you can. But like I was saying, just be careful about when you're wiping or putting the IP around on the other caps on the other side. You just don't want to put too much pressure on accident. Lift one. Was it overheating? No, it's preventative. This is a base model Xbox One, the original fat model. Just want to be certain that, you know, my investment lasts me. I don't know when I plan to upgrade to the next Xbox that's coming out, so probably won't be right away. So that one's pretty good there. Get a nice, there you go. Now let's get this one a little cleaner than it looked. Isopropyl rubbing, same shit. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol. I do have some 91, but I'm going to finish up this stuff first. Every time I work on an Xbox, that has an X clamp, so a 360 or a 1, it's very frustrating. I don't know why. It feels more frustrating. When it comes to like the PS4 base model, always seems like it's just super easy every time. All right, I'm gonna go grab my Arctic Silver 5. I'll be back in a second. All right, Arctic Silver 5. Looks like this for those who don't know. And we're gonna get this open. Now I know there's a lot of 70%, I know there's a lot of people who have different opinions of how much to put. I'm a firm believer of a rice size. So just gotta go very slowly because this stuff comes out pretty easily. When it comes to this stuff, a little bit goes a long way. So I did stretch out that last portion, but it is a rice size. And I got some on my finger. You do want to make sure that these are completely clean, dry, and then you put them on. So remember, the orientation is that your fan is facing this way with the cable facing towards its fan connector. So you're going to line this up. Like so. Where's my X clamp? How did I put it? There it is, found it. So you want to be grabbing the X clamp and make sure you get that going. Let's see. If one of them is not going, you can always get your screwdriver, your flathead, and work it around there. Just remember to be very careful about when you get it back on, that's all. Yeah, that wanted to lift. I'm going to turn this a little bit around to make it easier for me. So I got 3 of them. This last one's being a little bit stubborn. Just trying to read what you're saying there, Roggers. This one is being extra stubborn here today. I've never had this much trouble with the next clamp. At least getting it back on, that is. Usually when I just push it on, it just goes. Today is not that day. See if I can go for that one first. I guess not. Flip it around maybe. There we go. Got it. Okay. So it doesn't really matter if you're honestly being a little bit more aggressive like I was to get it on. The paste needs to spread out regardless. And if it does get around those other capacitors, granted you're not using something like Cryo Knot, which is like, you know, liquid metal, you're not going to have any issues. So first things first, don't forget to plug in that fan connector. Now that we have that in, we are going to grab our metal cage. Since we did rock it out the other way, we are going to do exactly the opposite, getting it back in. Just make sure all those ports line up just right. Double check one more time, and looks good. All right, first thing that I need to remember to put back is that white post. This one should be a T9. Don't want to forget that. go back underneath. We're going to put those X clamp ones right down there. These are T9. They are the black screws that we took off. You do want to be generous on tightening it down, but obviously once it is pretty tight, do not try to add more torque into that. You don't want to strip these pretty fine threads that they got going. I'm a pretty big fan of the star pattern, kind of like when you work on your car. And these ones are the T10. We had 2 down here and 2 up there. If you want, you can hold the board from below with your thumb, screwed from the top, because the board will kind of shift around since it doesn't currently have any screws in. Once you get a couple in, it should be just fine. And then these 2 right here, up by the black plastic right there. So we're going to flip this upside down, set this back in here. Before we go any further, we do need to remember to get those 3 screws in with the posts and this board. For that board to go in, it does need those posts. So you're going to set it so these 2 are facing you because they need to go into those little clips. You're going to face it so its feet are inside. You press in just like a little spring and it just pops right in. There we go. Now you want to grab your board, lift up on this cage, plug it in, set it back down. These ones are T9. You're going to put those 3 black screws that go to this main board right here on the front. There's only 3 black screws. I know you can't see it on camera. I'll show you in 1 second if I didn't already. They're right there. 1, 2, and 3. Next things you need to do, have that hard drive back in. So basically it's going to sit right here. There's a little foot right there that sits in, and then you have it right there. Plug this one right there. They pretty much line up where they sit, so plug its 2 cables back in. Grab your disk drive, That will set back in just as well. It has its own little feet on the board that it will sit into. There we go. Plug its 2 cables back in. Power and data. Ta-da! You want to grab your metal shielding, and you're going to want to, well, of course, orientate it so speaker is facing you. And with those 3 screws that we had that were here, here, and here, what you're going to want to do is hold it so the connection goes right underneath there. You'll see it. And just take those the screws, just finger tighten them in for now, the 3. Just so it holds it into place. Take your T9. While still holding it from below. Tighten that down. So that's what's gonna hold it in. You want to lay down your top shielding here. It does kind of sit in there with the little foam outside kind of tucked into this other bottom metal shielding. Next up, get that Wi-Fi chip, and let's see here. It was orientated just like this because you have the connector. Just move that out of the way. Be careful to connect it gently and straight down. Get your T9, put those 2 screws back in. Connect the Wi-Fi cable right here. Make sure it's secure. Connect the Wi-Fi cable on the other side on the front panel. And the speaker. Now you want to get all your longer screws here. They're all labeled by C and a number with it. Where's the other one I'm missing here? Oh, you know what? That's my bad. It's underneath there. So I'm gonna just quickly remove that. The other long one is right down there. So tighten that one first. Then plug in that. see, one person's still watching. This should be your T10 for all these other screws. I am not fancy with power tools. Not against them, I just don't have them. All right, now that that's there, we're gonna get our top shell back on. There are clips underneath here and of course on the front of the front plate, but first things first, you do want to get that that ribbon cable on for the touch sensor stuff. So make sure that that clip is lifted. I'm gonna have to do this off camera, just due to the difficulty of getting it on in itself. I like to have it at an angle. You might be able to see this, but it's right there. Have it kind of at an angle, so it gives you just enough room to slide in the ribbon, lock it down, and push it back in. Then now you are here, you're gonna need to get those clips in. They alternate, so it goes, you know, like that. Get the front part lined up right there. Turn it. This is always the most difficult part, really, the reassembly, because there's so many clips. And the clips don't always want to go back. They all do need to kind of line up at the same time. I have very, very little room where I'm working. This is technically a dresser. Alright, see ya. Well, I'm gonna finish this up